It's the D-Day for NRM. Stephen Imbido Mfefe I'm coming to you from the Wampel Avenue, N Road, Kololo ceremonial grounds. Of course, we know that today and tomorrow, the NRM National Delegates Conference is sitting, and delegates from across the country are heading to Kololo. Many of them have been in Kampala from Monday, but today is the D-Day because there is the campaigning and voting for the new leadership for the Central Executive Committee of National Resistance Movement. Of course, CEC is celebrating also, or marking 20 years. Today, I'm going to be speaking, this morning, I'm speaking to one of the contestants, one of the candidates for the position of the Vice Chairperson for Kampala Region, who is also the Mayor of Kampala Central, but also the NRM Chairman for Kampala District. That is Salim Sadi Uhuru. He's here with me. Good morning to you. Looks dope.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, Uganda. Good morning, NTV.
Yeah, today is your D-Day. It's a deciding moment for you. But first of all, how are you looking at the race? From Monday, there have been elections and campaignings. How are you looking at this race to follow?
Well, I'm so excited. I am so ready for this election. I've been yearning for it, and I'm going for a win. Number two, the issue of Mpankuwe is a problem now. You cannot pay 25,000 delegates. However, I have to do all it takes to win this election.
And but this, when you talk about money, this has been happening because many people have been fighting even for money, even at Kololo itself, and even in the...
My brother, people have money in sacks, if you do not know. I have never seen money in sacks, but I've seen it this time in sacks. And they're giving it out. So me, with my business, my small business, I cannot match those big tycoons who are running with such kind of money. But however, with or without money, I am in this race for Kampala region. There's none other better candidate who has a political track record like mine. I've been with the NRM. I have made NRM shine in Kampala. I have been there in all the good and bad. So there's no way they cannot vote for Salim Uhuru Nsoboga.
You know the issue of commercialization of politics, and now that money is being given out day and night, this can have an impact on internal activities within the NRM, even today and tomorrow, but also on the general politics as we head to 2026.
Well, I blame ourselves for this issue of money. We are the ones studied. I'm coming there. I'm coming. We are the ones who started the issue of politics, of money, and stopping money now. It's not going to be easy. What it is, maybe our generation to go, the next generation will not have money. But the issue of money is, you can't stop it. I saw the president coming out warning. He's joking. There's no way people are going to not going to give money. It's my money. I will give out my money. I want to win an election.
You know, even yesterday we even saw fist fights. Some people fighting with these special interest groups that are happening. And this, today being the top organ, main day, today and tomorrow. And we're likely to see such scenarios. And what do they mean about the internal democracy of the party?
I do not expect any fighting because these are now national.
Saw it yesterday.
That is the youth and the rest. But now this is another category of leaders. That is the vice chairpersons of national region of Kampala. So I do not expect any fighting. Why? Because our voters are not accepted to go in. Maybe if we are going to mobilize now thugs and crooks to enter inside, that's when you will expect violence.
Okay, but also today, as we go in there, we've seen even before unpalatable words being exchanged by candidates at a top level. What does this also mean? Speak about your party and your internal workings.
Well, it's very unfortunate. As leaders, we should have been exemplary. We should not have gone head-on. And the biggest people are waiting for the most contested seat is Anita Mong versus Kadag. That is the first one that they're waiting for. Then Honorable Kasolo and Karangwa. Those are the main ones that people are waiting for. And that's where the money has been throughout. And Mike Mukula with Ochodu.
Okay, but also let's speak about the position that you're contesting for, because this is not the first time that you're coming up. What is the relevance of this position of the Vice Chairperson for NRM Kampala region?
Number one, the position of National Vice Chairperson for Kampala region needs a very vibrant person. Vibrant person in which way? In mobilization for the president. Number two, for the party. For number three, to see we take charge. Number four, we have been lagging behind. You have seen the problems we have been facing in Kampala. We cannot, how do I come out the only person in NRM, which means there was a problem in mobilization. Two, how do I have only 15, 18 councillors? I need that position to mobilize right from the grassroots and make sure we win. So that position, he needs none other than Salim Uhuru.
Yes, when you talk about lagging behind, I know 2021, NRM was thoroughly beaten in Kampala, yes. But also we're going into 2026. What will be the strategy that NRM can apply this time round that can see NRM getting back to the top?
Mbide, not because I'm NRM. Let us be honest. I know NTV has been moving around. This time NRM is going to win very highly.
What makes you think so? Because what we've seen...
I'm going to give you a snapshot. For example, the recent elections of the youth, we won by 95%. 95% in Zijao. So that is already a sample. We are going head on now. This election of the vice chairperson national is an internal election because I already came out unopposed. I'm just waiting for the D-Day and come out a victory. But this one, it will help me boost all my NRM candidates, not only in Kampala but elsewhere, because I'll be sitting with the Kajeju Mbira Yenyini Gari Kumeza.
Okay, I know you have to get to Kololo inside the National Delegates Conference, but also, before I let you go, the issue of, we still have the position of Kampala vice chairperson race, where you contested before, you were beaten, and now you're coming back. Other contestants, where do you think that these, the incumbent has not performed well, that you think Salim Uhuru or anyone else can do better than?
I don't want to go personal. I have offered myself to serve my party. And I've offered myself, I've not come to just show myself. I'm coming for a win. No shortcut. This time, it's going to be lining up. So those who are thinking they're going to come and change the DRR form, it's not going to be possible. It's going to be by district, Kampala, Kunjiri, Mbarara, name it, or district by district.
But I've seen already some candidates already uncomfortable with the issue of, with the system of lining behind candidates.
That is the most transparent election that we have of lining up.
Why do you say
that we have?
Why do you say? Because I've seen even when the time of counting, you saw even a video circulating on social media when people are even complaining that, you know what, big shots were even beaten by lining up. You are shaming the big shots within it.
Beat the big shots. Time comes where you can serve and go. So if you have been beaten because you have been a big shot, I'm sorry for you. Accept. This is a new generation coming up. This is a new generation. Leave way for them to also lead. Groom them.
You are someone who speaks candidly about matters. NRM has been in power for 40 years now, and you still want to...
Another 45 is still coming.
You still want to gain control. But you who speaks candidly, where has NRM fault? Where do you see the fault of NRM? That people say whenever you go, people are crying about poor education, poor health services, poverty is around the country. Where do you think that NRM has not performed better?
Poverty, no, because most...
Let me quantify my issue.
Most of our government programs are to remove people from poverty. You get it?
That's where the problem is.
We have got youth livelihood, we have got Bonawa Gagale, we have got the PDM. All that is to remove the person down to poverty. So
let me quantify my statement, because you have these various programs from way back, but still when you move across the country, you still see that people wallowing in poverty. These programs, you mentioned them, good programs on paper, in supervision, but still the quality of life of the people is still wanting.
I agree. Not every Ugandan is doing well. That I will agree. But at least the programs that government has come in. For example, the recent one now is the PDM. Even the president went himself, the whole country, to see is there value for money. But now in Kampala, the only challenge is if you give someone 1 million in Kampala and someone in Bueju 1 million, the one in Bueju will use the 1 million better than the one in Kampala because the needs in Kampala are more. So the issue now is, are they receiving that money? That was where the question was. For PDM, yes, because it's coming direct to the parish. The rest of the programs, I will put question mark, because we did not see an impact in them.
All right.
But however, our government is doing its best to see all Ugandans affiliated or non-affiliated to the NRM party have a comfortable life.
All right, my final question for you before I let you go, because I see your supporters are getting ready here, getting excited, is today and tomorrow.
Yes.
Going forward for the NRM, for the candidates, your word to the candidates, but also to all the party members, because this is not a do or die and shouldn't be a do or die.
Well, to my fellow NRM party members, my prayer is, number one, let us vote a candidate not because of his money, financial muscle. Let us vote a candidate because of his capacity to mobilize, to lobby for the party and make sure NRM shines. So that is my prayer, and this is not a main election. This is an internal election. So we do not need to kill ourselves. Salim
Saadi Uhuru, who is vying for the position of the national vice chairperson for Kampala region. I'll have to let him go to Kololo, but of course we shall stay on the ground today and tomorrow to give you the updates. For now, let me take you back to Chris again in the studios for more conversations as we wait to see what transpires at Kololo ceremonial grounds as NRM goes to the polls for SEC position. Stephen Ibido, Brian Kayono here, and we had you to Chris. Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Stephen Mbide, for bringing us up to speed with what's happening on ground there as the National Resistance Movement prepares to decide on who are going to be the members of the top organ, the Central Executive Committee. Many thanks for those who are joining us right now, and for those that have been with us, it's a pleasure that you have kept the tradition. The Kickstarter, we are talking power, policy and patronage, the evolution of the National Resistance Movement's Central Executive Committee. 20 years in, and the amid 2025 SEC elections is what will form the crust of our discussion. I have guests with me. I'll be introducing them very, very shortly, but let me just afford us a preamble and on exactly how we shall be moving. We are taking a deep dive into 20 years of the NRM's Central Executive Committee, its rise, its influence on the controversies that have shaped its role in the party's top decision-making processes, from internal policy battles to questions of patronage, monetized campaigns and succession anxiety. The SEC stands at the crossroads of power and governance as Uganda heads into the 2026 general elections. Over 305 aspirants will today be contesting for 17 elective positions, and we've seen already heavyweights clashing. That is Rebecca Kadaga versus Anita Among, and that is already beginning to shape the political landscape. There are a lot more battles, and the processes will be very, very closely followed. But the question remains, has the Central Executive Committee of the NRM remained true to its founding vision, or has it become an avenue for the gatekeeping elite? How does it measure up against counterparts like South Africa's ANC's National Executive Committee? Joining me on the show are retired Major Paula Awich, the Director of External Affairs at the NRM and a long-serving insider of the party's External Relations and Strategic Positioning Desk. Many thanks for joining us, Major.
Good morning and greetings to our viewers.
Great. We also have Dr. Robert Ojambo. He's a political scientist and governance researcher, bringing us a data-driven perspective on internal democracy and its link to Uganda's broader economic, democratic indicators, rather. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
And we also have Mande Akol Amazima. You are a Pan-African political analyst, and you've been tracking dominant party dynamics across the African continent. We are honored to have you on board.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning, dear viewer.
Great. I'll be coming to you, retired Major, very shortly. Yesterday, we saw you basically perambulating the Entebbe airport in all its pockets as you welcomed some of the members of the revolutionary parties across the continent. That is something that will form a bit of our discussions. But for those who are following us online, the hashtag to use, especially if you are on X, is NRM Decides 2025 SEC at 20. That's a hashtag. We shall be able to sample some of your ideas, sentiments, and what you make of all this political process. Should SEC separate ministers or members of parliament from many of the posts? And of course, your voices do matter. Which reform is a must? Gender parity, term limits, independent voting, or transparent minutes? That's all what we want you to be part of, so that at the end of it all, we are able to understand how the people who form the crust of the electorate do see matters. Let me return to my panelists. Let me begin, like I promised. Retired Major Paula Awich, yesterday you literally spent the entire day welcoming revolutionary members from across Africa. ANC, I understand the SPLM, honchos are also in the country. First, briefly take us through that.
Thank you so much, and as I said, greetings to our viewers. Now, yesterday and a day before yesterday, I indeed have been at the airport at the VIP welcoming comrades from all over the world, not only Africa. The constitution of NRM provides, and it is captured in the core principles of an element of international nature. Pan-African for the purpose of Africa, but also the spirit covers global aspect. Therefore, the movement believes that the liberation of Africa is paramount, and we effectively do it. So when we have such a kind of a conference, we invite our friends as best practices to see how we do things, so that they also see that we are transparent, we are fair, even to our own members, because this is an internal exercise. To that effect, therefore, we extend invitation to our friends, to our comrades, the progressive parties, so that they join us. And for that reason, the past few days have been welcoming many revolutionary parties from, actually, you could say, from Mediterranean in the north to Atlantic Ocean in the south, because we're in touch with the ruling party of Algeria up to the ruling party of South Africa, that is African National Congress, ANC. So we have seen many arrive. ANC came, the Rwanda Patriotic Movement came, Kenya, South Sudan, Burundi, many including from Venezuela, Latin America. That's why I was saying it is global. Latin America, we are also going to have representation from the Communist Party of China and all that. So we thank our colleagues for cooperating with us, and we also appreciate that our international commitment is seen, and that's why comrades come to be with us. So they are going to join us in Kololo. We have kept them in a hotel now. As long as Kololo settles, we'll see the delegation reach there. Okay. But the important thing here is that, do we really show the world that we are internally transparent and we are committed to the values that we say, or we only do things among ourselves and put others under the carpet and go? And we also, of course, by inviting them, we learn best practices from them. So we are here with them.
All right, so we shall be putting that transparency conversation into the microscope so we can actually see whether it will play out the best possible way. Dr. Robert Ojambo and Mande Akol Mazima, allow me to stay with Major on this to allow him to take us through the historical overview of the Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement, its mandate, the structure, as well as functions. That should help us understand, or maybe relate to the kind of power dynamics that we see playing out.
The historical context of SEC, you said?
Yes.
Of SEC is that the idea and the spirit was born from the army, because there is always a a debate as to what you could put it as. Is it the egg which came first, or is it the hen? Now, some people say, no, it is the hen which produced the eggs. Others say, no, it is the egg where the chick comes from. Yes. So in this case, you have NRA and you have NRM. But in my opinion, the logical conclusion to that debate is that it is the hen that produced it, because the mere thinking of deciding to fight, that thinking is ideological, and that thinking is NRM. The fighting itself is NRM. So the thinking, the formation of the idea to fight is an ideological, is a political aspect. Then the military is born from the ideological. Okay. So that is settled. Therefore, when NRM started, it had a high command, a provision where you think that there should be a democratic centralism. There's democracy, but centered. So how you balance the two is a matter of fact. Okay. Yeah. Therefore, the high command was born. Now, this spirit was contained. Now, when we finally had a move to pluralism, where we said, we held a referendum and said we go multi-party, the current political body that we are talking of was formed. So it still had the traces from the previous one. It was carried forward. And as we know, in transformation, normally good aspects are carried on and bad aspects should be negated. If you negate the bad aspect and carry on the good aspect, that is a qualitative leap. So that is part of the history. The other thing is that when NRM was being formed, there was an attempt to form a legal remedy. How do you legally sort yourself, or how do you legally form? So that urge for a legal remedy to organizational structure led to the creation of a SEC. The other thing is also that part of the history is best practices. By the time NRM was formed, there were already other political parties, like the Communist Party of Cuba, the Communist Party of China, or even other political parties in Europe. So this also, in effect, had a touch in the formation of the history. Now it came to practicality, that it was born as a legal provision under the Constitution or in the Constitution. But for it to be born in the Constitution, it had these elements which help in its formation in the minds of the drafters. Incidentally, during the drafting of the Constitution, I was an active member, because by then I was a seconded lawyer to the other NRM. Of course, we had brains like Adolf Mwesije, the Amam Babazi, that have really put in a lot in this thing. So that helped to the formation of SEC, which ended up being born as the highest organ of policy in the party. And elections were set. We had the first lot which went there. I don't remember the exact, but one thing the current chairman was the chair, and the current vice chair was the vice chair. And then the other members, it kept losing out the regional, including the General Cherigonza, who were originally in the other one, and so on and so forth. So it has continued. Maybe the only touch about the part of the history is the role it has played. It has continued to play the role, the policy-making role, the overall guidance role, and actually not only the overall guidance of the party, but the overall guidance for the country. Because once you win political power, once you present your manifesto to the people and they vote you automatically become a ruling party, meaning therefore your supremacy is felt in the country. So briefly, that is the history of SEC.
Thank you very much. Mande Akol Mazima, you're a Pan-Africanist. And if the submission by retired Major Paula Awich is anything to go by, this is basically an African revolutionary system playing out. I know you have maybe studied extensively other parties, including the ANC, one that takes center stage when you talk about political and revolutionary struggle across the continent. What is your take on SEC's achievement, both at party level but also at national level? Because as he has just said, that by virtue of being the governing party, then rollout of policy pretty much comes from the SEC.
Well, thank you very much, and I also thank my comrade, Major Awich. He's also Pan-African, like I am, but I'm only surprised that he has decided to put on a colonial suit. I thought it would be dressed like me, so that we can really promote
I've been performing diplomacy. I'm from the airport, welcoming, welcoming guests.
But getting to what, before I get to your question, getting to what he has said, is that NRM is a revolutionary party, just like CCM, ANC, Frelimo, ZANU-PF. Now, most of these revolutionary parties in Africa have passed through stages. The first stage upon getting to power is the transitional stage. That when NRM came to power in 1986, actually power was captured by NRA, the army, as he says, and that power was handed over to NRM. And NRM came up with an ad hoc National Assembly, which we used to call the National Resistance Council. So they started now structuring how they're going to run the government. Now, from in 1989, the mandate was extended. And that is when the new concept of the movement system came in. Actually, most revolutionary parties, after the transition, they enter into a one-party state like we had the movement. Actually, the movement system was a disguised one-party system. And we were within the one-party system, which we baptized in Uganda as the movement. And that ushered us into the constitutional making process, and in 1995 we had a constitution. And after the constitution was made, now there was an option of either retaining the one-party system, which we had given a sweet name of the movement system, or we go multi-party. But people got used to the movement because it came with an idea of individual merit. Then now people would vote somebody depending on who he is and how they know him. But you remember in 2005, there was a referendum. Actually, in that referendum, most Ugandans, having a bad history of the multi-party politics in Uganda, didn't want to go back to the multi-party system, just like it was in Tanzania. In Tanzania, when there was a referendum, Tanzanians didn't want to go back to multi-partyism. They wanted to continue with CCM as one party. But remember, that was the time of global liberalization, and of course there was also pressure from outside, and then we had to go multi-party in 2005. Now when you get into multi-party in 2005, there was a need for a paradigm shift in every sector of government, even in NRM, because there was even now a question. NRM is a party for everybody, so it means a new party should be formed. And actually that was a very big debate. At one time they proposed that it should be called NRMO, and those in opposition used to joke around, say NRM 0, but eventually NRM retained the name, just like CCM also retained the name CCM. Now when we go into the multi-party system, yes, SEC has had evolution. That you realize that the first leaders of SEC we had the president, who is actually still the party chairman and party president. We had Alhaji Moses Chigongo, who was the first vice chairperson and still the first vice chairperson. Rebecca Altwala Kadaga, Right Honorable, who was the second national vice chairperson, and she's actually still. But now we've seen changes at regional chairpersons, apart from Mukula, because Mukula is joined in 2005 and he's still. Yes. But when you see in the north, there was Angola was replaced. In the west, there was Chadi Gonza, he was replaced. In Central, we had Mahogany, Professor Bukenya, he was replaced. In Kampala, we had Captain Francis Babu, he was actually replaced. Now, the other evolution that we have also seen in SEC is that in 2005, all SEC positions were elective. That actually what we are seeing between Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga and the sister and Right Honorable Anita Mong, during the 2005, that competition was for the post of Secretary General, because that was the engine of the party. You remember the context between Amama Mbabazi, Dr. Crispus Chionga, okay, and yes, you see, Mahogany came in the subsequent delegates conferences. Sure. So you remember that election, where actually when when Dr. Crispus Chionga lost to Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, there was a walkout from his people from Kasese, because they thought that by that time he was the national political commissar, and therefore naturally had to come in because the national political commissar then was the head of the movement secretariat. So there was that feeling that he would come in naturally as the first Secretary General. So the subsequent elections, now that's when we saw Amama Mbabazi and Mahogany, because now that was when there was the transitional talk. They say whoever wins this catches he actually is better positioned to succeed.
The Cape of Good Hope in the queue.
That's true. So that's what comes in now. Amama Mbabazi's second term, that is when his presidential ambitions cropped up. And that is where SEC came in, of course under the guidance of the president, to not to have the party fall into the Secretary General crisis. In Africa, we've had the Secretary General crisis. That here we had in UPC, Obote and Ibinjira. That when a Secretary General is elected and is the engine of the party, he also commands the same powers as the chairman and the president. So when the presidential ambitions of Mbabazi came up, so I think the SEC, guided by the president, was quick to contain that, so that the party does not disintegrate. Because in terms, when you look at Zambia, there was a crisis between Kenneth Kaunda, and his longtime friend Simon Kapwepwe, with Simon Kapwepwe was the Secretary General. And actually at that time, when there was a fallout between the two, in Zambia, that the position of Secretary General was so powerful that the country didn't have a vice president. So whoever was the Secretary General of the party was actually the de facto vice president of the country.
Yes. Thank you very much. Dr. Ojambo, SEC as an engine of internal governance of the party, but also one that helps entrench democracy, since the NRM is the governing party. Does that look like it has worked out well?
Thank you very much, Mr. Genyi. And I thank my colleagues for having given us the history of NRM and its SEC. But away from history, I want to give you real situation. When you look at African political parties, especially the ones that are normally in power, in my view, I call them state powers. I mean state parties.
State parties.
They become state parties because there is no difference between the party and the state. And you can run the whole of Africa and see the same characteristics. You go to Tanzania, they have labeled a lot about Chama cha Mapinduzi. There is no difference between Chama cha Mapinduzi and the state of Tanzania. In South Africa, ANC, no difference. In Rwanda, in all these places. I think the only place that things have changed a little bit is Kenya. In Kenya, for them, they don't have even pure political parties right now. They have movements. They form movements which are an amalgamation of a number of
political vehicles.
Yes, which are a number of political parties. And that's why you see, for example, now Ruto, you may not be very sure whether Ruto is in control of the state. That's why you find sometimes when he wants to give a very serious message, he has to hire a mercenary, Raila, to come and speak for him. Recently they were addressing the UDA party and ODM, that alliance, and Raila was as if he was and the man was referring, as the Prime Minister has said, now I want also to concur with him. So you would look at where the power is. In Uganda, let me tell you, and viewers, NRM is like a bus, and the good thing, they use the symbol of a bus. And this bus is owned by Yoweri Museveni, who is the driver, and he decides who enters the bus and who leaves the bus. So SEC is just like a position in the bus near the driver. You know that position, that porch, which is normally in front of the driver. And every time the driver is driving his huge bus, he must be sure that these people around him can help him to manage the bus business. And as such, as Major Witch told you, there is a very thin line between the political party and the NRA, which is now was baptized UPDF, Uganda People's Defense Forces, but I prefer calling it NRA. That NRA has a lot of say in what happens in the state, to an extent that when they are in Kololo there, yes, they can see it to posture to the international world that they are independent, and you see they do things in a way that meets the standards of the world. But the decisions are brought on table. And those decisions, once they are read to people, they can talk about them. They can talk about them and discuss them. But if you're a serious analyst, just look at the lips of the president. When they have all said whatever they say, and the president says something, in most cases, it will look like mixing colors. If you are mixing color, a neutral color and the other hard colors, the neutral ones disappear. And those ideas will just fizzle, and by the time you know, it is the president's way that he always takes the day. So when you look at SEC, in fact, SEC has become a little bit controversial in the last 2 elections. When he was talking about the issue of the Mama Babazi and the group, then now this one which came. Last year, in the last election, there was no much struggle. In fact, these babus and what have you were very easy to push out. Charigonzas were very, very easy to push out. And there is also a pattern that in every election, there is a new group that is brought in. And I normally look at President Museveni. He normally looks at the next 10 years. He's now not planning for these elections.
Not planning for 2026.
No, he's planning for the next 10 years. And therefore, the people who are coming in SEC are to build that foundation on which they are going to bolster the next 10 years. As they talked revolutionary, you know, for some of us who study history, the word revolutionary is very funny. In fact, most of these parties they call revolutionary, they are not revolutionary. They are dictatorial. But because they want to hide the word dictatorial, they say revolutionary. And people, revolutionary is very revolutions. If you have read the history of revolutions, in most cases revolutionaries don't benefit from their revolutions. They come, they do something, and in most cases they are eaten by their own revolution, and they disappear. Talk about Napoleon, talk about this man in Germany of the Nazi, and so on. Up to today, nobody knows where he is. But then NRM has been using the word revolution. But in most cases, what you see, they are protagonists of a good example of a personal dictatorship. And in fact, in Africa, you need it. You need it because we come from a background of dictatorship. When you look at the kings in Africa, the chiefs, they were absolute people. So when you bring these liberal things and you mix with the absoluteness of the kings, you produce these revolutionaries, what he likes calling revolutionaries.
Interesting.
And SEC is a place which gives, if you want, it is a perfume. After everything has been done, then they blow this perfume to show some democracy, to show some, but the decisions are brought on table. And the SEC is only, their job is to adopt. And that's what they normally do. They adopt those things.
Retired Major Witch, I'm sure that is a submission that is discomforting to you. to describe the National Resistance Movement not as the revolutionary party that it wants to present itself as, but as a pseudo-dictatorship. I do not know whether developments including the ring fencing of positions of the chairman of the party and the vice chairman basically reinforce that thinking.
Not at all. Not at all. But first of all, I'd just like to say NRM is a revolutionary party. You could even remove the word revolution and replace it with progressive party. But let me comment about what my colleague said before. Because we had discussed about the egg and the hen question. He insists that NRA took over power and handed over to NRM. I think I insist on my point that is NRM which took over power, because even in the legal notice says, legal notice means the constitutional instrument that ensured that a new government comes in place. If an army takes over power, for example, there's a legal instrument which comes over to ensure that from today on,
legal notice,
this is the new government. So that legal notice says, today NRM has taken over. It doesn't say today NRA has taken over. Today NRM government has taken the reign of power. It doesn't say NRA has taken over. Again, I am saying that even if you say the fighters were NRA, the person commanding these fighters is the ideology, the chairman of the high command and the chairman. So it is him who has taken over. So I just wanted to insist that for you who is shooting the gun in Lubiri and Makere and coming to take over Radio Uganda, you are walking into Radio Uganda to take over, but you are doing the work of the movement. So I insist on that. Now the other thing is that doctor says that the difference between the state and the ruling party is not there.
It's non-existent.
It does not exist.
Especially within our...
Although at the end he goes ahead to thank that is the only option, that it is good. But I don't want to fall into the trap that it doesn't exist because he has thrown bread at me at the end, that it is after all the only option. No, there's a difference. The simplest example of seeing a difference between the state and the party here is in the failure and success theory. If something succeeds well, okay? For example, if police were to maintain law and order, they would say the state has succeeded very well. The state, if there was maintenance of law and order in Uganda, they would say the state has succeeded. But should there be no failures, when there's chaos, the party has failed. You see NRM. Have you seen this NRM? So, meaning that inherently people know there's a difference, but people choose to adulterate it. For us as a party, our role stops at giving policies and manifestos. When we win and we have formed a government, the difference is clear. The difference between the government, state, and the party. We have won the mandate of the people, we have formed the government as constitution demands, then we leave the government and the state. And that's why I'm saying people know it, but they choose to adulterate it. And that is why when there's failure, it is the party, NRM. And when there's success, the state has done so well. So when does it become a state, when does it become a party? Meaning the difference is actually
selective application.
Selective application of situation. Now, the other thing is what you actually ask about whether or not there's a pseudo-democracy. No, there is
a pseudo-dictatorship.
A pseudo-dictatorship. There is really democracy in its sense, not any pseudo-dictatorship.
Maybe we could also be afforded the opportunity to understand why the positions of chairman of the NRM and vice chairman, the ones held by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and Alhaji Moses Chigongo, are ring-fenced.
Yes, it is good to look at it. But to conclude on this one is that when President Museveni acts as the chair. People don't want to differentiate between acting as the president or the commanding chief. For example, the doctor is saying, when we discuss in Kololo and President Museveni comes to talk, you read from his body language. That body language you are reading is a body language of the chairman of the party. The body language you are reading is not the body language of the president. We have to make this difference. Now, about the ring fencing, I had mentioned sometime, I think in this forum, that the core spirit principle in NRM is that in all matters to be resolved, even at the village level, the spirit is, please let us have a consensus. Okay. Let voting be a second option. And therefore, the attempt to say that let's have the first chairman and the second and the third, actually the position was well explained by General Utafire. Utafire's argument is that this election is fluid. Somebody will come. Let's have the three as institutional memory. Because Katongole will lose election, or Sam Ngwala will lose, or somebody will lose, but please, why not save the three for institutional memory?
All right, that is the consensus that stands on the principle, maybe, of democratic centralism that you spoke about a little bit earlier. Let's go on ground right now to have an update of what is happening to the precincts of Kololo Independence Grounds. My man, Stephen Mbide, is standing by. A very good morning, Stephen.
Yes, good morning to you, Chris. Yes, we know the National Delegates Conference is on, and today we expect the campaigns and polls for the positions of the Central Executive Committee. But from Monday, Tuesday, we are supposed to have special interest groups polls. But for the positions of the youth, there are still concerns, complaints, irregularities that are marring this National Delegates Conference. Now, let me engage some of the candidates, but also some of the delegates who are for the positions of the youth league. And here are some of them. Let me engage, beginning with you, your name, but also the concerns, because today we are supposed to have the youth polls. Yesterday they were postponed to today, but up to today they have been postponed again. What is the matter? Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, NTV. My name is Oremo Hilary Odwe. I'm aspiring youth member of parliament for Northern Uganda. Now, the challenge we are having in Kololo is that we reported on the 22nd of this month, and our voting was supposed to happen on the 25th. Today is when the SEC members are supposed to come to Kololo to vote the higher people in SEC. Now, the people who are supposed to constitute today's meeting are supposed to come from the elections of the youth, the flag bearers. Up to now, we have not voted. Elections have been postponed ever since we came here. They have been postponing elections. And us, as the candidates, we have been overstretched. Right now, we have been campaigning expensively. Delegates have been hidden. We have to hunt for these delegates, and we cannot get them. The other thing is that at this point in time, the delegates, some of them have already traveled back to their villages. My delegates from Gulu, delegates from Lango, delegates from West Nile, many are frustrated and they have gone back to the villages. So we are appealing to the national chairman of the party, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, that things are supposed to be cleared before we go further with voting, because our delegates have already gone back to the village. There's a lot of frustration. Election is about emotions. If people wait for elections for so long and they are not seeing elections, people board buses and go back to the villages.
You mean now you're telling me that some delegates have gone back, yes. But the issue of facilitation is also key. Have these people gone with their money already in their pockets?
No, the allowances that these people were supposed to be given for the first days that were calculated for the election of the youth were given to them. But remember, elections were postponed. Now it is from that frustration that many of the delegates who were already financially constrained, ever since the other day we came on 22nd, decided to board buses yesterday at night and went away. As I speak right now, only one position in the youth structure has been voted. That is the position of National Youth League chairperson, which election took 24 hours. So the the Electoral Commission of NRM is failing to organize elections, and they are frustrating us, the candidates. They are constraining us financially, and the candidates are also getting frustrated. The election right now, as I speak, the president has said the election is going to be pushed until further notice.
So for now, with these issues happening, what is your call to the Electoral Commission of NRM headed by Tango Doi, but also the national chairman, because he's supposed to be part of you at Kololo?
First and foremost, the Electoral Commission is supposed to think about our plight as the candidates, because we have been spending money, we have been spending time planning for elections. Now, we want the Electoral Commission to organize election which cannot happen today, it cannot happen tomorrow, because we must bring our delegates back from the villages. A lot of delegates have already gone back to the village. Should the Electoral Commission of NRM say that they are going to vote today and they are going to vote maybe tomorrow, still we cannot have a good process, because delegates have traveled to Karamoja, delegates have traveled to Acholi, delegates have traveled to West Nile. We need these people to come back. How? The NRM Secretariat must liaise with the leadership at the district so that delegates are transported back, those who have gone.
Okay, before I move to someone else, I've had concerns that, let me just pose this question to him, that there are some fake, in quotes, people who are not part of the delegates who are supposed to be at Kololo, but they have also been ferried to Kololo. Is this so? And have you noticed or even witnessed some of them?
A very good morning to you. My name is Amanya Abdu is my name, and I'm an aspirant in this race for Northern Uganda Youth Member of Parliament. It's true, this election is marred by a lot of irregularities. To begin with, the commercialization is top-notch. Delegates are being hidden at places where candidates cannot access them. I am a victim of this incident here. Whenever you attempt to meet the delegates at certain spaces, you are either denied or you are battered to that effect. I have been battered for attempting to meet the delegates. So this is a little bit unfair to some people who do not have the capital or the resources to actually run these elections right now. A person like me, or just like another candidate, we are so stretched, we are stretched thin in terms of logistics. These delegates are asking us for feeding, for accommodation, and we have no choice. We have to kowtow to their demands. But fundamentally, we are here not for a selection, we are here for an election, not for an election to be conducted freely and fairly. The candidates must be given appropriate time to speak, to canvass votes with the delegates. They must speak, but then apparently they are not given sufficient time to canvass.
So we have to agree that there are so many candidates, but also the time, we have only 2 days.
Now, unfortunately, for purposes of a democratic society, you need to create time for this. This is a fundamental process in our democratic societies. So you cannot give a candidate 2 minutes to canvass or to campaign. What would the masses be listening to? So that is very unfair, but also fundamentally, we need to examine the integrity of the Electoral Commission handling this. Because personally, I am aggrieved to that effect there. And I do think for us to have very authentic elections, the chairperson or Electoral Commission must come out clearly on certain guidelines to follow.
Okay, thank you.
Other delegates have moved out of the spaces because of frustration. And what compound effect would that one have on us?
Thank you so much. I have to go back to studio, but before that, you've been standing here for some time. What is your issue? What is your concern? And how do you want it to be addressed? Before I go back to studio.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Jackson Banduni, and we are gathered here. We are gathered here to vote our leaders, but also to be voted into office. Our frustration comes on the failure of the NRM Electoral Commission to organize credible elections. And now we know NRM for being a mass party. We have first spent 72 hours at the Kololo ceremonial grounds trying to be voted into and also vote our leaders. By the inability of the EC to constitute credible or to credible electoral processes has challenged our morale, has challenged our vigor to vote our leaders. We call upon the NRM Electoral Commission to organize credible elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much. These are candidates and delegates from across they're coming from across the country, and as you can see, there are others still coming in. I can see Honorable here is also a member of Parliament, is also heading towards Honorable. Just one word before I let you go, because I have to go back to studio. Sure, briefly.
Thank you. Good morning, our viewers at NTV. I'm Chitata Ibrahim, District Chairman Urengo and member of the National Conference. We are already at Kololo, going to vote for Anita Among and Mr. Kalangwa.
Okay, just before, any concern with the way, maybe the lining of behind candidates, any concern that there's also another one that some people who are not delegates, they're just putting on yellow and then they're just entering?
People need to be serious. Our electoral commission needs to screen out and make sure that only the rightful delegates are entering. But this is a big lesson to NRM. I think in the future we should have secret ballot voting, such that the integrity of the whole process can be protected. And also, you cannot stop people from coming because they are members of the NRM, but screening is important, such that only rightful people join us in this exercise.
Thank you so much. I'll let you go as more delegates are coming in and are heading towards Kololo, and this is just Wampeo Avenue, a stone throw from the entrance of Kololo Ceremony Grounds, where the National Delegates Conference is taking place today and tomorrow. This is NTV, and we shall be keeping you updated on whatever happens here. Stephen Imbido, Fefe Switch Buga.